Good morning, everybody. It is November 8th, which means it is officially the second week of novnov. Nano, Novel November, whatever November writing challenge you might be doing. I'm kind of just doing a mishmash, calling it whatever. It's just my November writing challenge. I'm trying to write 50,000 words the way we've been doing for decades. I've been doing for not quite that long. I think it was like my 5th year, though. Dog. That's crazy. This year I'm working on not starting a new project. I'm actually working on an old project, Project Assassin. This is technically kind of the second draft, but it is such an overhaul that I have to genuinely write 50,000 fresh words for the story. So I was like, well, that seems a pretty good choice. And if it ends up not being a whole 50,000 words, I do have another draft of a different story that requires like 10,000 words. So it's at least 40,000 words I need for Project Assassin and about 10,000 words I need for Project Hometown. So that's my backup in case I finish the draft and didn't actually need 50,000 words. But anyway, blah, 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 blah. Yesterday I fell very behind, but yesterday I was trying to catch up more and I'm trying to keep up that energy. I need to write like 1,900 words a day, which is not that bad, but I do want to see what I can to bring that average down and make it easier to achieve, especially because I'm going to be traveling around Thanksgiving and all of that good stuff. So yeah, that's where I'm at this morning. Also, sorry about this. I don't know, how do you tell if you have wavy versus curly hair? Because I know my hair is at least wavy, but it does get ringlets. It does. Very loose ones, albeit, but I let it dry last night without styling it. I just went to bed with it wet and it looked crazy, so I brushed it out and now it's just a different kind of crazy. Rubius Hagrid could never. Maybe I'm gonna go right. Actually, no. What I'm gonna do right now is finish my Raisin Bran, and then maybe I'll go right. Filming in front of this window is kind of bad because it's like too bright. It is several hours later. I did write a little bit, so I didn't show you, but I've written about 1,500 words so far, and I stopped because I got up to the chapter featuring the midpoint beat, and that's crazy. In this draft that I'm working on, I have pasted in from my old draft. So there were parts I was working on that were not written yet, or I had to scrap and then rewrite. So that's mostly what I've been working on, but this chapter that has the midpoint in it was already written in a previous draft, and I'm anticipating I'm going to be keeping a good deal of it. I don't know exactly how much I'm going to change, but I know there are probably going to be some things that I have to adjust in this scene. When I'm writing a story, I usually think of Act 1, Act 2A, Act 2B, Act 3. If you structure your stories in that way, do you think of the midpoint as being more so of Act 2A, or do you think of it more as Act 2B? I'm curious, like, is it in the fun and games, or is it in the bad guys close in? For me, I don't know. It's like both. It's both, I think. I don't know, but that's something that's interesting in my working on the fun and game section here. It's only in this pass that I'm realizing I'm building up the stakes, I feel, early, because I feel like in a story initially you have whatever stakes come in with the catalyst. You have the catalyst and then the break into two if you're looking at it to save the cat. So you have stakes established in the beginning, realizing that the hero or main character has to go on this journey. Generally, I would think about the midpoint is like the twist, it's the point of no return. I didn't really think about upping the stakes all throughout the fun and games. It was more like upping the stakes is for when the bad guys close in. But with the draft I'm working on now, I just found myself naturally putting in little tiny bits of stake raising. Yeah, I don't know. That's just something I was thinking was interesting, and I think it makes it better. I am worried just about my story in that I'm afraid it's too convoluted, or I don't know, too difficult to follow. At this point, I'm just focused on trying to get the story on the page. And I know I said this is technically a second draft, but the first draft was so sparse and it only included like the first half of what I actually want the novel to have. So this draft 2, it's like drafting. I mean, I'm revising the first half, but I'm having to draft the whole rest of the novel. So this second draft is, I don't know, it's kind of weird. I'm working it out on the page, I think. And then once once I have it all written, then I have a chance to make it even better thereafter. So if it is kind of messy, that's okay. It just needs to be clear enough that I understand what's going on so that when I come back to it, I can fix it. At least that's the way I'm thinking of it. So I'm thinking I might go work on my midpoint because I want to reach my requirement for the day. Like I said, I wrote about 1,500 words. I'm supposed to have 1,900 words. I want to write at least that, at least equivalent to that, or maybe exceed it a little bit. Anyway, Sir Yap a lot over here. I will update you, or I'll show you what I'm doing while I'm doing it.
It is 8:58 p.m. Also, I just finished Fleabag season 1 and just started the first episode of the second season.
Good morning, everyone. I cut off the clip last night at an hour. I did not think it was going to take me as long as it did. I mean, I cut it off at an hour and I feel like I was only halfway through the chapter. And I don't know how much the chapter was, like 2,300 words or something. I was expecting it was just going to be some revising, maybe tweak some parts, but it ended up being like fully line editing the whole thing. And then something that I was afraid was going to happen did happen, which is that I had to remove chunks from my old draft, which brought down my daily word count. Before I had started that chapter, I think I had like 1,500 and I wanted to get up to 1,900 or 2,000. But then what I was working on, it was mostly keeping it at roughly the same. And it was taking me so long to do all of that editing line by line. And then I had to start taking out paragraphs, which brought me down to like 1,300, which is not that much of a difference. But by then it was nearing like 10 o'clock at night and I was just getting frustrated. My day was just like, yesterday was not, it didn't go exactly how I wanted it to go. I did not bring my average down, I'm sure. I haven't checked it yet this morning. I was getting some discrepancies, like on Scrivener, it was saying I needed 2,000 still. Okay, so I was using the Pro Writing Aid tracker, but then I don't know. I don't really want to be supporting their thing, and I've heard people talking about TrackBear. I decided to give it a try, and so I've been doing that, and I don't really know how it works. I don't know if you can like add friends or things on there. So on there I was saying I needed 1,900 words yesterday, but I only got 1,300 because I started taking away paragraphs, which sucks, but I know it's going to happen. And what sucks even more, I mentioned in another video, I think the video where I was trying to decide what project to work on in November, so Preptober vlog, I talked about how I've given up on this story so many times, but then I always come crawling back to it. But I was like, I'm sure this is probably not the last time that I feel like quitting on it. Well, I was not loving how it was going last night. A lot of things that happen in the plot are very implausible, especially if it's not handled well. So I keep trying to make it make sense, and I'm afraid that it just doesn't make sense, like logistically what I'm having happen. I'm afraid that that's not actually going to happen, and it's hard because that's the whole crux of the story. Like the story is built around these things happening that might not make sense to happen. So if I change it, if I take out the things that don't work, then I don't have the story anymore. And I know the story is in the characters and everything. And I don't make the characters do things that they can't do. The characters are very true. I'm not defining a plot and making the characters work around it. It's definitely influenced by the characters' actions. However, there's like, I don't know, plot armor is the right word. There are a lot of outside factors of the characters that are working in their favor to help them achieve what they're trying to do, if that makes sense. So I don't know that it makes sense in the story. It's getting to be a little bit frustrating. It's so hard because these characters and the dynamic between them and all of the themes that this story and the subsequent stories that I have planned for a series, it all means a great deal to me, what lives in my head, and I'm afraid that I'm not translating it properly, and I'm afraid that I'm not equipped to translate it properly, and I guess that's like imposter syndrome or whatever, I don't know. I don't feel like I have experienced that in a long time, but I'm just feeling a little bit discouraged at the moment, I think. But also, I was working late last night and my attention and my energy was very low. My day was just kind of blah. So that could be a contributing factor. I might come back now feeling a little bit peppier and see that it's not so bad. Like I was saying, I'm just worried that it's convoluted. I'm afraid that it's implausible. I'm afraid that my prose is too difficult to read. I guess just power through, but I'm afraid powering through is kind of what can cause burnout. I mean, I could pivot and work on my backup story, but I think I'm gonna try to work on Project Assassin a little bit more. I'm gonna finish the midpoint scene, which there's not much left, but I might be injecting more into it. I'm not exactly sure. And then I think I have to do a little bit of finagling for the scenes that come after, because I did a little bit of tweaking on the scenes that come before, which slightly adjusts where characters are going to be, so my outline needs a little bit of tweaking. I used to very much be more of a pantser. I never outlined. And that's why I'm stuck with the messes that I have, because then I try to make them work. But then when I go back in them, I add new things. Oh my gosh. I'll film what I do this morning and then I'll give you an update on my thoughts more later. But if you experience these feelings, let me know how that is and what you do to deal with it. And if you have a hard time dealing with it, feel free to share that too. Alrighty, I'm sitting on the floor in the hopes that I will maybe be slightly less overexposed and also in frame better, so you're not like right up in my face all the time. I don't know why this camera is just automatically zoomed in so much. It is 1:52 p.m. I, as you saw, finished the chapter with the midpoint. I think I'm feeling better than I was earlier. I am still kind of like, when I wrote my first draft, I wrote like 70,000 words for it. And what I considered the all is lost is what I'm now considering the midpoint, which is why I have so much story left to write. But now that I'm getting ready to move into this next part of the story, I do have an outline for it. But I'm looking at how I have it outlined, and I have stuff that goes on, obviously, and I have a finale and I have it all figured out what I'm going to do, but it's just not nearly as packed as the first half of the book. And the first half of the book is not really half of the book. Definitely looking a lot more than half the way I have it structured. So I think I'm just gonna have to write and see what happens. And if what I have for this back half is not enough, then maybe it'll look structurally more similar to the first draft than I thought. I really don't know. Because where I'm at the moment, if I'm guessing, which I am guessing, I think it's like 65,000, 60 something thousand is where I'm at right now, where the midpoint is situated. So if I do double that, that is a long, a long book, I think. A lot better than a 70,000 word draft for, I mean, it's a fantasy novel. I want it to have a little bit of length to it. That's something I'm having to figure out. I think what I was saying before about just powering through, I'm going to try, just put the work in, do something. I have a tendency to like get freaked out and then I just step away from something and then I don't deal with it for a very long time. And I really would love to finish a better draft of this story. And I have other stories that I really would like to finish. So like I said before, I had to do a little bit of tweaking to the outline and it was a little bit of a headache. It took a little more thinking than I thought it was going to. I had to like make a list of exactly where all the different characters are and what I can do to progress the plot, see where they're going to go. My outlining a scene is pretty much just like one or two bullet points, like a sentence or maybe even a fragment of what I want to achieve in that chapter. So I keep it pretty loose because I know I'm going to take liberties while I'm writing. But now I'm kind of like tired. I'm not feeling as badly about it. I mean, I do still have some misgivings and concerns. I think I'm deciding to just deal with my concerns and just work through them. So I'm gonna go take a break, like play The Sims or something. They probably all melted away now, but I had little snowflakes in my hair. Just a flurry or whatever. A negligible amount. It's not gonna stick, I don't think. So yesterday, I showed you what I did. I think I exceeded my goal by just a smidge. It's interesting the way I have this Act 2B outlined is I have really long chapters for each character, but I feel like that doesn't make sense. I feel like I need to have shorter chapters and it goes between characters much more often because I need probably the pace to pick up. So I started writing the first two chapters of Act 2B yesterday, and the first chapter was like negligible, so short, 2 pages long or something. And I do like the idea of having a variety of lengths. Generally, I think it's like 1,500 to 3,500 words, with it generally being more like 2,000 or 2,500. But then I have ones that are like 4,000. I have ones that are, like I said, just a couple pages, so maybe even under 1,000 words. But that's for a particular character, and there's a reason for it being so brief. I think my outline is going to mean little. Already I started changing up scenes and things like that. That's what I was working on yesterday. A lot of the ideation for me comes while I'm writing. People might find that obnoxious. It really can feel like the story exists outside of your own self. You're taking on the responsibility of excavating the story, unearthing it. It's like, I feel like once you know who the characters are, then it kind of writes itself. It's just a matter of understanding what the characters do to make the story be what it is. When new things come up when I'm writing, it's like, well, yeah, it's because the characters are doing what they're doing. Maybe it wasn't what I expected, but to me, it's like they live outside of my understanding. Now, what's tricky is when I don't understand what might be going on. Like I can't quite translate what the characters want or need. And like I said, what I was struggling more so with was not the characters necessarily, but the exterior factors that kind of just seem to be allowing things to happen when they probably shouldn't happen. So I have to get a better idea of what all of that looks like. So I'm gonna try to work today, try to exceed my word count, hopefully by a larger margin than just like 100 words over. But yeah, okie doke. Good morning, everyone. I'm showered, I'm fresh, I'm feeling better. Last night I was so freaking exhausted. I don't know if you could tell from the little time lapse. I kept like zoning out. I was like, I feel like I'm about to fall asleep like right here, right now. But I was like, I'm gonna keep writing. I'm gonna keep writing because I'm actually interested in what I'm writing here. Thankfully, because I was so scared. I wasn't scared before. Initially, moving into Act 2B, I was like, heck yeah, this is fun. There's gonna be lots of new stuff to write, the tension, the conflict, all the stakes, everything is rising, it'll be fun and it'll be juicy. But then when I was coming into it and then I had to like move some of those scenes around, like tweak what was gonna happen, I was like, oh no, this is gonna be horrible. And so when I try to think about what should be happening next, I get freaked out. I'm like, this is not good. But then once I sit down, get my fingers ready, and I start writing and I get in that flow, I feel so much better because the story figures itself out. I always considered myself way more of a pantser and I just kind of started plotting because I needed to make sense of things going on. So I don't know if this makes me a plantser or what, because I think it's a good idea to have some kind of outline, but I know that as soon as I put an outline in place, I'm gonna break it. And I think whatever story I'm working on will be better because of it. It's kind of like even what I was saying about excavating. I feel like Stephen King in his book on writing kind of talked about that, how that's what storytelling is. And I do think it is different for everyone. I don't think you have to be a pantser or you have to be a plotter. I do think it is different for everyone. And I know just for me, I've definitely considered myself more on the pantser end of things. And I guess I still do because I really feel so much better sitting down, writing, and then the story figures itself out. It unfolds before me and it just comes while I'm writing more so than when I'm really trying to plot and plan and outline. Even though there is still value to that, for other people for sure, and even for me, I do utilize that, but not too much because then it just, I guess, is discouraging. So I'm feeling a lot better now. I feel like I'm in an interesting place in my story, and I think I'm transitioning into what I was thinking the next part would be much more easily, smoothly, and clearly. I exceeded my required amount yesterday. I'd love to get back, I don't know, like fully on track, but at the pace I am presently going, I do think I can finish because I am meeting like my 2000-ish word count these last couple of days. I think I wrote like 2800 last night. So I would like to bring it down to make it easier to keep up with. So I'm gonna see about writing today, see if I can exceed the count again. I feel like this video is starting to get long because I was looking at, I'm gonna be doing this for the whole rest of the week and I'm only like halfway through. So if I keep showing you every sprint I do, this video is probably gonna take forever, but I'll give you more updates later. It's these talking clips that are making this video so long, so I'm going to try to make it quick for ya. At the rate I've been going, I'm on track to complete it. I mean, I'm writing 1900-ish words a day, which is what I need to be writing, but I know that later this month, there are going to be days that I'm not going to write, so I really have to lock in, which is rather unfortunate considering I fell so far behind to begin with, so it's like extra hard to catch up. But I am trying to write over 2,000 words a day. I'm going to try to write a lot today. So we're going to see how that goes. While I'm writing, it's all fine. I was like a little bit earlier when I'm just like sitting by myself thinking. I'm like, maybe this is crap and horrible and disgusting and tragic. But I need to ignore that because the only thing you can't fix is a blank page, okay? So if I have something and it's crap, at least I can do something with that. I'm gonna go write. Usually I have to like build up my mental fortitude. Let's say fortuity. I don't know if that's right. Also, it's so windy. I have to go check in my front yard and see that the chairs on my front porch are not like across the street. Thursday, November 13th, which means two things. One is that I have work today. Very part-time, only for 3 hours, but it's at a new thing and I'm like kind of nervous. But that's later this afternoon. And I'm gonna be working with kids, so it's probably gonna be crazy and hectic. But I'm still gonna try to get some writing in today because I don't have to leave till like 2. And it is 8:10 at the moment. Yesterday, I did write a little bit more after all the sprints. I feel like probably it's just getting boring looking at like time lapses of me sitting at my computer. I think yesterday I wrote the most in a day I have so far in November. So I wrote over 3,000, but I don't know exactly how much. And I'm getting quite close to getting back on track, actually. I want to see if I can get over the required amount. It'd probably be easier to show you my track bear than this journal, but you see how close I'm getting. Maybe if I like lock in to a massive degree, I think I need to write like 3,000 and then I will be on track, which I can do maybe. I want to exceed where I'm supposed to be. Yeah, so there's my update. Good morning, everybody. I look completely swagless, but we just have to deal with that. I did not end up writing any more than I did yesterday. I'm thinking my plan for the day is I want to get back on track to exactly where I'm supposed to be. So it is November 14th. I don't know exactly how much. It's 20 something thousand is what I'm supposed to be at. I'm at 19,000. So I don't know. I'm guessing it's like 3,000 words to be fully back on track. I'm gonna try because I don't have any plans today. It is getting later. It's 10:30. It's later than I usually do this, but no matter. These will be the last time lapses of the video, and then I'll say something and probably the video will end. That'll be it. So, wish me luck. Okay, well, I only have overhead lights in my house, so there's nowhere good to film in the nighttime. I do have an update, although it is not the update I was wanting to give. I've only written what I have already showed you, which is like 800 words. It's almost 6:30 at night. The problem is I've had stuff plotted for Act 2B, but the scenes that I had planned to write, I've written them now, but they're very, very, very short. So if I want to be on track with my word count, like keeping each quarter of the story a similar length, I need to have like 8 to 10,000 more words in Act 2B, and I only have like 1 or 2 more chapters that I had planned, which were going to be 1 to 2,000 words each. But what I'm thinking of doing is I'm going to go back over these last several chapters I've written and figuring out how I can bulk them up, because I know that they're kind of like bare bones. It would prevent me from having to figure out new scenes that really wouldn't make sense to happen. Mostly the struggle at the moment is just hitting beats at wrong percentages of the story. Very noticeable that Act 2B is like concise. But I'm wondering if my all is lost moment is not the true all is lost moment. I have to ask, what is actually the worst possible outcome? Like, what does complete and utter failure look like, specifically relating to the call to adventure, catalyst, and everything like that? And that sounds kind of obvious, I think, but it's difficult because the story, the main plot of the story, has kind of shifted because there's multiple plots, multiple strings of story going on in this book, and there always has been, and it was very difficult for me to figure out what the main one is. So that kind of has created lack of continuity. It's taken a lot of thinking. I wish I could just come sit down and write, but I have to figure this out if it's not going to be a disaster, and I don't want it to be a disaster. It's so funny because I was like, I'm going to get back on track, which required 4,000 words. I didn't know it was quite that much. I've been working so hard to catch up. I do not want to fall behind. So I want to at least get my 1800 to stay on track. Good morning, everybody. It is November 15th now, so that means I am ending this vlog and starting my next week. Hopefully the next vlog won't be so freakishly long as this one. But anyway, to wrap up yesterday, I barely scraped by, and I did that by going through the previous chapters I've been writing and putting a little more words in. Obviously not very much because that was 1,000 words over several chapters, but I didn't get all the way caught up. I did hit 20,000 words for the challenge, so that's something. It's supposed to be at like 20, probably 23,000 or something. Maybe that's for my next vlog. We shall see. But thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for next week. Mayhaps. Let me know how your project is going if you're doing one. Okay. Bye.